My name's Clay Mason Stevens. I've been doing gymnastics since I was 5 years old. I started in a sort of junior development elite program and kept training, kept loving it, getting invited back. So did that up until I was 17 years old in South Australia at the Gymnastics South Australia gym, Sassy gym, sort of within those programs, and then was invited to come move to Canberra to the Australian Institute of Sport at 17 years old. So trained here, lived here for 3.5 years as a part of a group of 10 guys that were brought in, which was good fun, and then actually moved over to the United States in 2018, competed in college over there while still competing for Australia. So at the same time, parallel, sort of doing that program and the international program as well, and then moved back to Australia, back here to Canberra, mid 2022, and I've been training here since. So in that period of time I've been to 3 World Gymnastics Championships, been to Commonwealth Games, made a couple Commonwealth Games finals, and the goal this year is to qualify for the Olympic Games and represent the green and gold again.
And is that the ultimate goal, the Olympic Games?
Yeah, the Olympic Games. So when I was growing up, the 3 goals I had were World Championships, Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games, sort of the little trifecta that a lot of gymnasts have. So I've been able to tick off 2 of those. So ticking off the Olympic Games, but ultimately making a final and medaling at the Olympic Games is the dream. So
grand goal.
Yeah.
And I was reading, but I had to do a bit of a stalk, obviously, before the interview. When you were growing up, you were like into your soccer. What was like your childhood like? What sports do you like, and how did you eventually get to gymnastics?
Yeah, my childhood was very much sort of soccer orientated. My dad was into soccer. Both my brothers play soccer, so played a lot of soccer. Loved it. Also played some tennis, did some swimming. Pretty usual upbringing. Gymnastics was strange for me and my family. None of my brothers did gymnastics, or my parents haven't done gymnastics or anything like that before. So just got invited through like a school program, and I was pretty energetic and strong and flexible for a 5-6 year old. So just got invited that way. So it's a bit strange, but kept sort of doing all of the sports up until about 12-ish, or a bit before 12. And then it just got too much. So the training hours started to increase on all the sports I had to pick. So picked gymnastics.
And I think like an interesting part about you was like your Poland syndrome. How did this affect like your initial start with gymnastics? So considering in my eyes, gymnastics is like a very upper body sport, and obviously like your pec you'd think is like an important aspect of that. Like, has that affected you when you started, or was it an issue, or like was it pretty easy to get?
Yes, I was super lucky growing up that sort of my Poland syndrome and not having my right pec muscle wasn't brought up very much. It was both my parents are physiotherapists, so they sort of kept an eye on me. But it was never an excuse. It was never something my parents brought up. It was never something we talked about at home. Never something I brought up in the gym. It was if you want to be a gymnast, you've got to do what everyone else does. So you just sort of make it work. If it's too hard, my parents are always supportive of you go as long as you want to go and you work as hard as you want to work, and they weren't pushy in that way. But I was motivated and determined to be an elite gymnast, and there's no handicaps, so just had to push on. So very lucky that my parents instilled that sort of mindset of go and get it. No matter what the hurdles are, you have to go and get it yourself. So and that sort of stuck with me my whole career. So as I've got older, I've sort of started to be a bit more interested in how my body works. But the fact that I didn't change my program and I trained very normal meant that my body adapted very, very well. So the right side of my body is compensated very, very well for not having the right pec muscle. So I've been very lucky, and I've worked pretty hard to try to make it happen. And I'm pretty lucky for the position that I'm in. So
cool. And why do you like gymnastics? It's a very basic question.
It's a good question though. It's actually a great question, because at an elite level you don't get asked why you like it. You get asked why you do it, and a lot of the times the answers are because of these goals that I have, and sort of that's why you do it, and that's what's driving you each day. But why you like it, it's a great question. I like the challenge of gymnastics, the mental and physical aspect. I like the technical aspect of being able to sort of chop down skills and sort of find different biomechanics and work out how things work, and then the physical aspect of trying it, and then the progressional aspect of having to train your muscles, get stronger, get more powerful, and then translate that into a technical aspect and a technical skill. And I love how hard it is, and I love how diligent and dedicated it's made me, and I think that's sort of translated into other areas of my life, which I'm very, very happy for. And it wasn't the plan as a 5-year-old to have those skills, but I'm very lucky. I think elite sport, and at least just consistent training in any sport, no matter what level you're at, is a very important. That's a very important part of actually sticking to a schedule.
Yeah. And I've also read you also had a lot of injuries. I know you've hurt your back the other day.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of injuries, and even I read you had bowel cancer.
Yeah.
So kind of on that, how did you overcome those? Because I think injuries, especially to the degree of how many you've had, would have stopped a lot of people in their career. So how did you, what really drove you to keep pushing and to eventually get over that and overcome that?
Yeah. I've had to think about this recently because it's not something that I've specifically worked on up until a point. It's sort of, and I'm not particularly sold on the fact that I was just born with, this inherent ability to keep going either. So, and what I think I've come to is the fact that gymnastics is a sport of repetition and numbers and numbers and numbers and hours of repetition. And within those repetitions, 95% of the time when you're trying to learn a new skill, you're failing. And I think gymnastics is a sport, most sports, but gymnastics in particular, teaches you to, as corny as it is, get back up and continue to work on things and try to evaluate why things went wrong and how to fix them. And that's just a skill, how to build new skills, basically. And I think having done that for 15, 20 years of my life, it's sort of helped me outside of the gym with my injuries and with the hardships that I've had to face. And it's sort of, again, you get knocked down, whether that be one of my 3 ACL tears, you sort of get knocked down and you think, all right, well, why did it happen? Where did it go wrong? What can I improve next time? And sort of the goal stays the same. And I think the goal's the thing that gets you back out of bed, but the progression is what keeps you motivated each day, and sort of seeing slow progressions. And it's difficult to sort of put into words, but I think it comes from just training and repetitions of skills and just learning how to fail and learning how to get back up. And that goes for skill development as well as for injuries and hardships.
And with the ACL test, did you have to get a hamstring transplant from your parents or something?
So the options, I was surprised. My first ACL, I didn't realise you could get a hamstring transplant. You can get a transplant from the Achilles from someone else, or from a cadaver, a dead body. I actually just got, it gets a bit hectic. So there's a few options, but what I have done, and the advice that I was given and that I actually give to other people when they have torn their ACLs and gone for surgery, and they ask what graft they should get, my immediate opinion is always whichever surgeon you choose or that you go with, do what they are most comfortable with and what they do the most of, because there isn't that much research between the different grafts. There's different research, but there's not really strong evidence for one over the other. So if you get one that the surgeon's done the most of, that's probably going to be the best one you can get. So for me, the first one I did a hamstring graft, my own hamstring. And then the last 2, I got patella tendon grafts. It sort of depends. But yeah, I've had 6 knee surgeries now. So these knees are robotic at this point.
Yeah. What is the most painful part you think about the whole injury recovery journey, and do you have any advice to athletes that have injured themselves?
The most difficult part depends on the injury. For me, the most difficult part about my ACL was getting up and doing the same thing every single day, and some periods of the rehab process just not seeing any improvement, it being painful, and just initially it's about getting your range of movement back, so it's just bending your knee, straightening your knee, bending your knee, straightening your knee, all painful, crackles, all this sort of stuff. You're worried everywhere you're walking, you're worried you're going to slip and hurt it again. So it's just how monotonous that rehab can be is the most difficult thing. And the pain, pain comes and pain goes, and again, that's another thing that I think elite sport has done for me, is being able to help me manage pain. But it's just the monotony doing the same thing over and over again. Once again, something else that I'm used to because of the sport that I'm in. So
Yeah, fair enough. And I guess not really to do this, but a bit of a dark turn in this interview. But what has been the darkest moment of your gymnastics career? And was there ever a moment that you wanted to quit, like because of that?
yeah, there was a moment I did quit. Actually, yeah, 2021. Yeah, 2021. I basically hung the towel up, hung the towel, threw the towel in. Yeah, hung the guards up. Yeah, yeah, I gave up pretty much, and that was after my third ACL tear. And I tore my ACL and my MCL, and just ruined my meniscus in my left knee. It was
like a flip or something, or?
It was off rings at a World Cup in Melbourne, and then they flew me back to America, and I had to get a 2-part surgery. So one on my ACL and one on my MCL. They couldn't do it in one surgery because there was too much damage. It would be too much inflammation. So I got the first surgery. They repaired my MCL, and then COVID hit, and they said it was an elective surgery. So I was halfway through the process of fixing my knee, and I couldn't get the second surgery. So I was stuck on crutches. Meanwhile, couldn't come back to Australia and see family because of COVID. All of my teammates in America were sent from the college, were sent home because everyone on campus had to leave. So I was just stuck in a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house by myself upstairs on crutches, waiting for a second surgery. No training, no family, no friends, and that was a pretty dark time for me, especially being the third ACL. Yeah, that was the darkest time I've had, and I went to a really dark place. But yeah, it was a very slow process back. Really small, achievable goals initially.
Was it much like a prognosis? Was it like you probably won't have much likelihood of getting back to Olympic gymnastics, or was it still like you could still do this if you recovered from it? Was it that bad of a thing that people were not sure about your recovery? Or
people said that after my second one, that it was probably silly for me. Well, not silly. They were just saying, listen, just review your options. That never really fazed me. Like, I always knew that I can get back if I wanted to get back. So working to get back to elite gymnastics wasn't the thing that deterred me from getting back. It was just, it was just the dark place of feeling like, I can't win here. Like, it was about 4 or 5 years straight where I was either, having surgery or recovering from a surgery. And that was basically from 2017 through to the mid 2021. It was just recovery from ACLs for 4 or 5 years. So it was just tough. It's just sort of beating your head against a brick wall and the wall never breaking down. So that's what I struggled with the most, was what could I be spending this time on that would be more useful than just, am I beating a dead horse here? But getting back into gymnastics, for the rehab of my knee, just my parents encouraged me to do the rehab with my physio and trainer in America to make sure that I was just functional for life.
So this is while you were at university?
Yeah, this is while I was in America. So yeah, just training to get the knee back fit and healthy so I could just function as a normal human. And then, my fellow teammates at the time sort of talking about how fun gymnastics was and how exciting it was and all this sort of thing, all these sort of things that I'd never thought about before, because it'd always just been a job for me. I'd always just thought about gymnastics as there's a job to do, get in there, get it done and leave. And just changing my perspective and just looking at gymnastics as this awesome, fun thing that I can do where we flip around and we try new things, and sort of taking me back to the roots of gymnastics is what got me excited about getting back into it. So yeah, I got back into it for that reason, and then eventually, because I was enjoying it, got pretty good at it again, and then here we are. So, and that's sort of the mindset that I try to take into everyday training now, which is really difficult to do, but is just enjoy it, and I'm not going to continue gymnastics unless I can find joy and love for it.
Cool. And you said that you've been here at the Australian Institute of Sport for the last year and a half now?
Yeah, I moved back here in the mid 2022. Okay. I've travelled heaps, so I haven't been here for the whole year and a half or so. Yeah. But yeah, I've been, I guess, based myself here. Yeah. And
so when you finished school, did you obviously get a few scholarship invitations, and which university did you go to?
I went to the University of Illinois. Yeah. So I was in contact with a couple of universities. There were some issues with the SAT tests that were getting sent from America over here, getting compromised and all that. So there was a few issues with that, which sort of deterred a couple of schools. They weren't going to let me do a recruitment trip if I hadn't sat the SAT, which is understandable. But Illinois trusted the fact that I'd be able to pass the test if I went to the recruitment trip, came back, did the test with a busted ACL, sort of leg raised as I'm doing the SAT test, and
this is the exact athlete we want to join our academy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's that story.
And what bachelor did you do?
I got a Bachelor of Kinesiology pre-medicine.
Yeah.
So the plan was to come back and do postgrad med here, but can't do that while I'm training. It's a bit busy, so we'll see once I'm finished gymnastics.
And what can you talk to the experiences of being in America versus starting here in Australia? Is there a big difference? Or?
Yeah, the team atmosphere over there. I mean, you've got a gym of 20 plus senior elite gymnasts that you're training with. So no matter where you turn, no matter what skill you're doing or apparatus you're doing, there is always someone that's better at it than you are, which is great. There's always someone pushing you. So you might be the best gymnast on floor, but there's probably someone that can do each one of your skills, separate people that can do them better than you. So you're always learning and adapting, and there's always someone to look to get advice and things like that. And the team culture and the environment over there taught me a lot. So something that I've tried to bring back here to Australian gymnastics, I think would benefit a lot by improving and just developing the team culture that we have here. Also, that light's gone off.
Okay, that's all good.
If that's all good, yeah.
And so now we're obviously back here in Australia. Big year with Paris 2024 coming up. And I think you just talked about how you have. Talk about what comps you have coming up.
Yep. So 2 weeks from now we leave. We go to Egypt, to Cairo, where we have the first World Cup of the year. Throughout the year before the Olympics, there are 4 World Cups. Your best 3 performances, the points that you get, the best 3 of your performances, the competition, get added up, and you have to come top 2 on each apparatus to qualify for the Olympics. So again, we're just traveling in 2 weeks to 3 of the 4 World Cups, do what we can. I'm just doing floor at those. Although I'm an all-round gymnast, I can specialise on floor as well. So I'll be specialising on floor. Bit weird considering I've torn 3 ACLs. So it's a leg event that I'm sort of specialising in. But yeah, just gone to these World Cups, and fingers crossed that we can have some good results amongst all of the team. But me personally, obviously shooting for some top 2 finishes.
Do you have a favourite form of gymnastics routines that you're doing, whether it's rings or ground or anything?
Yeah. So it sort of depends on the day. Depending on the day and how I'm feeling will depend on which one my favourite apparatus is. So consistently my best is floor. So yeah.
And now, so kind of on that, what has been your daily training routine at the moment in the lead up to these big comps?
Yeah, so in a normal week we train around 35 hours a week. We'll do a lot of contact hours in the actual, we call it the the gymnasium gym, the gymnastics hall. So that's practicing sort of body weight strength and our specific strength towards our routines, and then also doing the technical skill-based training for our routines. We also do strength and conditioning, so weights training, do that 3 times a week. We have recovery facilities, ice swim as well as part of shoulder rehab, aerobic fitness, and just general body movement as well during the week. So training throughout the week, we have 15 plus sessions, plus we have our physio appointments, our nutrition appointments, psychology appointments. We have to be at recovery, massage, therapy. So it's a full-time gig that's very much structured meticulously by both myself, my strength and conditioning coach, my gymnastics coach, and then all the support stuff around us, so the physios, massage therapists, nutritionists and stuff like that. So it's a very, very well planned schedule, very hectic, but for good reason.
And I'm sure on Sundays you're in bed dying, or?
Yeah. Well, you get used to it, right? I've been doing it for a long time. But yeah, Sundays is nice. It's always nice. Sort of Saturday nights are the best because you'd go to sleep knowing you don't have to do anything the next day. Sundays is always nice, but I think everyone will probably have this feeling of Sundays you're still kind of worried about Mondays tomorrow, you know. So Saturday nights is nice. But yeah, Sunday being our only day off of the week is really nice to get outside and, you know, whether you go surfing or play the guitar or go for a walk or something like that. Yeah.
And how has this like training block leading up to these big comps like evolved compared to when you were like at high school or in the last few years? Is this like particularly big, or do you find that it's like you're like pretty used to it now?
Yeah, it's a good question. The word evolve is exactly the word I'd use. I don't do as many numbers as I used to because my body can't handle it. So like as you progress, you work out what works for individuals. What works for me won't work for the next guy. So we adjust numbers and sort of techniques. So sort of you can break your routines into a first half and a second half. And you know, there's certain things like I'll do a double second half, so do my second half through twice. And there's lots of different techniques and things that we use to try and get fit and healthy for that. When it comes to strength and conditioning, outside of competition, we'll do a lot of strength-based training, and then towards competition, we'll start to manipulate the program so that it's focused a bit more on power and speed, because it's very, very important in gymnastics to be powerful and light and fast. But you can't do that if you haven't first built the foundational strength. So yeah, closer to comps, I've got a very very specific schedule of how we manipulate and change my strength and conditioning program to make sure that I'm feeling quick, fast, and ready to perform my routines as well as I can.
And so how does it work? So I'm obviously not from gymnastics backgrounds, but you've obviously got these big comps coming up. Do you have like a big periodization of like building all of last year or the last few months, and then like this now month solely based on you know, your routine, or is it more like just constantly just strength conditioning routine, just like
so there's a pretty linear progression in a sense where you'll go from working new skills, so individual skills by themselves, and then you start to string a couple skills on each apparatus together, and then you can make it up to a half routine. So for reference, a routine is 10 skills big. You have to fit 10 skills in a routine. So you would go from one, just doing that, trying to perfect it. Once you perfect it, you put a skill before it and after it, and you do 2 or 3 skills in a row. You move that to a 5 skill sequence, which is like a half routine. Then you break it into 2 halves, and then slowly you can merge that into a full routine. So, and that progression happens over maybe, for me, around a 10 to 12 week block. Yeah. Again, we're leaving 2 weeks. I'm in a routine phase at the moment, so I'm doing the full 10 skills. But for instance, this week's a light week, so we still periodize our training. So this week's a light week. So last week I was doing numbers of routines. This week I bring it back down a little bit, start to do half routines or individual skills to give the body a rest, but also to focus solely on a sort of technique and form to make sure that I'm performing the individual skills really well. And the next week we'll bump it back up to routines again. So again, there's a pretty specific plan that we've got, and that's very much tailored to me and what we've learned through previous preparations to World Championships, Commonwealth Games and stuff. We keep note of every preparation, what worked, what didn't work, and how we can sort of build and make it better every time. So we're starting to get really, really close, and like I feel really confident with what we've built over the last 2 years since my knees haven't been an issue. I've had some time to really troubleshoot some nice schedules and sort of periodize training blocks into competition. So we've got pretty close to the pointy end of what I feel like is the perfect lead into a competition. So feeling pretty good.
Nice. And for like younger people that aspire to be like an Olympic, elite gymnast, what would you tell them about like life as an elite gymnast? What's it like?
Oh, it's tough. Like I would say it's the same as life as an elite anything. It is, you sacrifice a lot, but for good cause, as long as you can remind yourself, like you said, why you do it, what's fun about it, and remind yourself of the goals, and keep a good, solid, close-knit team around you. Build a team that you trust, that you can communicate really well with. The life is difficult, especially in a sport like gymnastics, which is a little bit under represented in sort of the media. It can be a bit difficult getting sort of financial support. So finding work on the side is difficult because you don't have the hours to give the companies that you can only work 5, 6, 7 hours a week because that's the only time you have. and not many people want to employ someone that only has that availability. So that can be difficult. And then on the other side, it's hard to get sponsors to pay you enough money to get you by, because it's not in the mainstream media very much. So the companies sometimes don't support athletes of Olympic sports that way. So it's hard, and you have to be passionate and dedicated to your goals and to the sport. But it really is rewarding if you're doing it for the right reasons and you're surrounded by the right people. It's incredible. I look at my life compared to some of my friends, and I've got some really successful friends, but I still look at it and go, yeah, I don't have to go to an office like ever. You know, the gymnasium is my office, and the strength and conditioning gym is my office, and it's pretty lucky that I get to stay fit and healthy as my full-time thing. So it's about perspective and how you view it. It'd be very easy to view it as a very difficult and hard and almost worthless thing, but if you flip it to the other side, it's a very, very rewarding and exciting journey to be a part of.
Yeah, and more on the job things, like what jobs have you had? Have you had any jobs over like the past, like your training, or has been mostly, since obviously being in the AIS, you don't do much? But
I do a bit, yeah. So I started work as doing some retail stuff when I could. And then I worked at the Australian Institute of Sport tours desk. So I ran tours around the AIS, and then I worked as sort of admin at the AIS tours, so doing invoices and things like that. And now I do disability support work, which is quite meaningful work for me. And I really enjoy it because I feel like I'm giving back and actually providing some sort of support and help to people. So, and that's also nice because it's a bit more flexible hours. But yeah, we have to find some sort of work. So
yeah. And who was because you obviously came into, how old were you when you started gymnastics? You say 12?
I was 5 when I started.
You were 5
I was 5 when I started,
okay,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
And how old were you when you started to get into like more elite side of things?
I got recruited straight into the elite program, but it started getting really elite probably around like 11 or 12. Okay. Started training 25 plus hours, yeah.
I think that's like gymnastics, one of those sports where most people start.
You have to start young. It's one of those, I mean, some people start later, but sort of as a general rule, it's difficult to get into the sport. If you're after 12 years old, it's very difficult because there's a lot of fundamentals you need to learn when you're...
Yeah. And so, who is your idol in gymnastics, and how have they influenced you in your approach to gymnastics? The stump.
Yeah, stumped, man. I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't know if I have a specific idol. I looked up a lot. I looked up to Sam Offord, who was a guy I trained with in South Australia growing up. He's a Commonwealth Games gold medalist, and I'm still good friends with him today. So he was someone that I trained with and looked up to just because he was an older dude in the gym that was achieving the things that I wanted to achieve. At the moment, it's sort of the people that I train with motivate me on a daily basis, and the people that I've competed against, and seeing the guys that I train with in the United States slowly progress, and all those guys that motivated me when I was at my very lowest to get a new perspective of the sport and have a look at how exciting and fun the sport can be. Those people inspire me. People with really positive mindsets and really positive outlooks on life. They are the ones that get me up out of bed and make me determined to do what I can for the sport and for the other people in the sport. Yeah. That's probably the best answer I can give you.
You went to the Junior Olympics. Well, was that like your first, what's been the most proud part of your career so far, you think?
Most proud part of my career? Youth Olympics was a big one. It was a junior competition though. Commonwealth Games was great. I had a great time at Commonwealth Games.
The most recent one, 2022?
22, yep. In Birmingham. Probably the most proud that I've been of my own performance or of something that I've done was giving away. I gave away my finals position at Commonwealth Games on high bar. I qualified for the final, and then there was another Australian that was below me who was actually a high bar specialist, and he's very, very good at high bar. Tyson Bull is his name, and he made a mistake in the qualifications, and I qualified for the final over him, and I actually gave my position away in the final so that he could perform there. So I was pretty proud of that. I think that was a really, really difficult thing for me to do at the time, and I'm very proud that I was that I did it. And I think it was the right call. He ended up winning a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games. So yeah, I mean, he's an absolute gamer. He stepped up and did what he needed to do. But for me, it was the right thing to do, and I'm proud that I noticed that was the right thing to do.
Do you reckon you would have got a silver medal?
I don't know, man. It's hard to say in finals, but he's a much better high bar worker than I am. We'll just say that.
Yeah, fair enough. And I guess last few questions, but how has gymnastics, I guess we've kind of touched it, but like how has gymnastics shaped your character beyond the physical aspect?
Grit, determination. It's taught me about how valuable a schedule is and sticking to a schedule. My mental health has been held together as well as demolished by gymnastics. Like it's one of those ones, but again, the falling down and getting back up, and throughout elite sport, again, for me it's gymnastics specific, but I think it crosses over all elite sport, and not even just elite sport, just elite anything. Anyone aspiring to be at a top level understands and knows that you come across a lot more failures than you do successes. But I think that's one of the most valuable lessons that sport specifically has taught me, is that in order to get a success, you might have to crawl your way through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 failures first, and that's an important lesson that I try to help highlight to up and coming athletes, is that it's not easy, but it's worth it, and that's something that I will take through the rest of my life in whatever career I end up in after gymnastics. Is pushing through no matter what. If you've got a goal and you're passionate enough about it, it's worthwhile grinding through. Yeah,
and I guess now, like just trying to go into Olympic qualifications, like what is kind of like the task ahead for you now to like make the team? And
so I have to go through the World Cup process. There's 4 World Cups. After all, you get points based on how well you do at each World Cup. Your top 3 performances out of the 4 World Cups, you accumulate the points, and you have to be top 2 in the world on your respected apparatus. So for me, it's going to these World Cups and putting up the best performance I can, and hoping that puts me in the top 2 in the world on floor. And if it does that, then I'll go to the Olympics. If not, I'm actually lucky enough that I also do all round as well. So I'll come back if it doesn't work out as a specialist on floor. I have another opportunity in late May. I'll go to New Zealand to compete in the all-round competition. So Australia versus New Zealand, the top all-rounder out of both countries gets the spot. So that'll be a bit of a hectic competition, because everyone there's vying for one spot. But that's the way it is. It's not easy, and it shouldn't be. So.
So you have to be in the top 2 in the world for floor to make the team.
Yeah, based on everyone that hasn't already qualified. So there's been some people qualified already, but everyone that's yet to qualify, it's only the top 2 on each event from the World Cup series that get the ticket.
But when you're in the games, are you like, how many competitors will be versing for floor if you make the floor?
It depends. It's really hard to say. So there's 96 total competitors at the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Some of them qualified through all-round competition. Some of them qualified through team events. Some of them qualified through the World Cup's individual thing that I'm trying to do. And then some of them qualify through what they call continental championships. So us is Australia versus New Zealand, and then Europe have one, and Asia have one. So there's lots of different qualification tunnels, so to speak. But once you qualify, you can decide what you do. So I can qualify for floor and then do everything if I want, and vice versa. I can qualify for floor and do everything but floor if I want. So
I was gonna say, if you're already top 2 in the world, it's like how does that work? If you're
a lot of the best guys in the world on floor have already qualified.
Okay. So
it takes a lot of a lot of people out of the mix.
So you just have to come top 2 in this competition.
Top 2 out of the next 4 World Cups, but everyone that's not qualified is going to be there. Like everyone's trying to qualify. So if they haven't qualified yet, they'll be there.
So it's other people that haven't qualified yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Training program growing up, as you talked before about you like 35 hours a week at the moment, and you go into it when you're 5. When you're maybe like in high school, what was like your kind of day-to-day routine?
Yeah. I'll run you through what a day looked like. Yeah. And then you can tell me if it's too much or not enough information. I can redo it as well. I can run through it again if you like. But I trained twice a day, pretty much every day except Wednesday, and Saturday was once. So Wednesday, Saturday was one time a day. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday was the same. And my day I'd wake up, I'd train, I'd get dropped off at the gym, I'd train from 7 until 10:30. So I'd miss the first little bit of school, and then I'd ride my bike from gym to school. Be at school until 3:25. I'd ride my bike back to gym and go 3:30, 3:40. Well, it's more like 3:45 probably. But training was 3:30 till 6:30. So I do 3.5 hours in the morning and then 3 hours at night time, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And then Wednesday Wednesday was just the afternoon, so 3:30 to 6:30. And Saturday was 8 until 12 usually, growing up. So growing up I didn't do a heaps of strength and conditioning. There wasn't a whole lot of, it wasn't normal at the time to do a whole lot of strength and conditioning stuff in the weight gym. Slowly as I've got older, there's been a bit more research and gymnasts in general are starting to do a little bit more weight training. A lot of it is to just build a bigger foundation for prehab, just to make sure that, reduce the amount of injuries that happen, so you get a better, stronger foundation. Because doing gymnastics, you do the same movements over and over and over and over again. Most of the injuries we get are overuse injuries. So what strength and conditioning can do for us, and can actually do for all athletes, is it gives you a bit more of a general baseline, which helps you adapt, and it means that you're stronger in areas, and you're touching areas that you don't usually touch in your specific sport. Yeah.
General physical preparedness.
There you go. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, so that was that. I was through the whole of high school. It wasn't until I came to Canberra after I was done high school that I started strength and conditioning weights training.
So you started that in Canberra, you said?
Yeah.
So do you reckon, like, that now you haven't been injured since like 2021 basically, do you reckon that's like helped you with your injuries in the past few years, or did you...
Yeah, I was doing it when I had my ACL injuries.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say a lot of it is my maturity in my training and understanding and knowing my body through trial and error, a lot of error, and learning from mistakes and learning from programs. So, but I would say now with my strength and conditioning coach that I have at the moment, we work very specifically on building areas of strength that I need in the gym, and then everything else is about reducing chance of injury. So it's very specific programs written for that.
Okay. And what are in the weights room? What are like the main exercises that you're doing
At the moment?
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of plyometric work at the moment to work on my Achilles strength and the power coming through my Achilles, and sort of quick movement through your Achilles through plyometric bounces.
Like jumps and things like that?
Yeah, and even just
Bloody hops.
pogos and stuff like that. So doing that can work on strengthening the tendons. So for me, being at the moment focusing a lot on floor, we're just making sure that my tendons in my Achilles tendon stays really strong.
Yeah.
There's a decent amount of athletes, gymnasts as well, that tear their Achilles. So it's one thing I want to try and avoid.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of that work. Also doing a lot of strength in my shoulders. So whether it be normal bench press, I'm actually doing a lot of decline bench press at the moment to work on lower pec. I don't have a lower pec on my right side, but that's it's precisely the reason we're working on it, because if I can lift the weight in a position that would be targeting a lower pec, we're inherently targeting the muscles that compensate for my lower pec.
Yeah.
So we're working, obviously that's an area of weakness, so if we can strengthen the muscles that do what my lower pec would do, then...
So how does it work? Like, if you're, is it like your whole pec is literally gone, or is it just like completely, like, there's like just diminished amount of muscle there?
It's not there, it's never been there.
Can you do like the exact same movement though, decline bench press, was like not very heavy, or?
Yeah, well I do decline bench press with 95 kilos.
That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, but if it was
How many reps?
We do 5 reps with 95 kilos, yeah.
Impressive.
Decline's a bit easier than normal and incline.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was doing it with dumbbells, for instance, my left arm would keep going much longer than my right. So like I've noticed previously, if I'm bench pressing with dumbbells, I get to a point where my right arms and my left arm can keep pumping. So there's a weakness there. But again, just working through it.
What's your 1RM, mate?
I don't know. I haven't done it. I actually asked my strength and conditioning coach the other day. I was like, what do you reckon I could do? He's like, 95 for 5 reps decline.
That's pretty good.
He's like, I reckon you could probably pump a couple. He was like, you could pump 3 reps out at 110, I reckon. So I don't know if I could get 120. Because the thing is, I reckon it's a pretty steep drop off with my pec. Like once it stops, it stops. So, but we don't do much 1RM stuff. Yeah.
Fair. That's pretty good. That's pretty impressive. Do you do much leg work with heavy weights?
Yeah, so I'm using it's called the Pit Shark at the moment, which is like a squat machine, but you don't have, instead of a back squat, you have a belt on, and it sort of hangs the weight between your legs, and it's so that you don't put too much stress through your lower back. And doing gymnastics, a lot of stress. I've had some back injuries, so we want to reduce the amount of load on my shoulders. So yeah, I do sort of that with about 225 kilos on, but it's different than back squat, of course. So sort of hard to compare, but I do that. I've been doing some eccentric loading on the leg press, single leg eccentric loading through my legs. Again, because we're focusing.
So you come down, but you're not really pushing it?
Yeah, well, you come down with 1 and then you push up with 2.
Okay.
Down 1, push up with 2, and it's 6 seconds down, push up with 2. And again, that's working very specifically towards landing position. So like we land with 90 degrees in our legs, so being able to hold a lot of weight through both our legs. So that's at the moment. And coming off an apparatus like high bar, we're landing from 3.5 meters up, and it's straight on your legs. You've got to be able to contract to be really strong in that sort of squat position almost. So we do a bit of that sort of work as well.
So what did you specialise in when you were younger? Have you always been specialising in floor?
So my specialty is all round. So I do all 6 events. Just happens that leading into the Olympic Games, you want to give yourself as much opportunity as you can, and floor is my best, and there's an opportunity to qualify through floor. So I'm specialising in floor at the moment while training everything else still. So
and so when you were younger, what were the main, like how did you kind of get like really good at your body weight exercises? Like,
just repetition. My leg strength. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. In the mornings is our strength and drills sort of session. In the afternoons, doing the actual skills and routines. So we do the same strength Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's just repetitions. We'd have a leg strength, which was like an aerobic sort of, bouncing plyometric work, and then you do some deep squat sort of jumps and things like that. So there was a leg strength, body weight leg strength program that we did every 4 times a week, and an upper body weight thing, which included dips, rope climbs, press to handstands, handstand dips, and then core exercises like leg lifts and heaps of different stuff. So it was just repetition and that sort of thing.
Like if you were to talk to like a 12-year-old or 15-year-old, what would be like their program versus like obviously now when you're older doing weight stuff?
I think first of all, I would say no matter how old you are, depending on your goals, there's a lot of ways to get. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, so to speak. But doing body weight exercises, there's a lot of ways to get fit and strong doing that. Like again, up until I was 17, 18 years old, I didn't touch a weight gym, and I was pretty physically capable. So especially for someone, kids that are young, like I would say that there's plenty. If you've got a creative mind and you've got a good coach, there's plenty of things that you can do body weight wise to get strong, which is safer and potentially more beneficial anyway than using a weight gym. That being said, obviously you've got professionals in the field that will have better advice than I will. So there's obviously rehab exercises that require strength and conditioning gyms and weights and things like that. So if you're prescribed weights programs from professionals, listen to them over listening to me. But if once you do get to a point where you feel like you've mastered or you're really into body weight exercises, then you can step into a gym. But I would say that make sure you're following a program written by someone that's experienced or a professional, hopefully a professional in the field that knows exactly what they're talking about, and there's knowledgeable, or at least within the field that you're trying to build muscle for. So if you're a gymnast, listen to a strength and conditioning coach that's dealt with gymnastics before, or follow a similar program to what other gymnasts or calisthenics or that sort of thing people will do.
What do you think are the primary movements or just muscle groups that you need to have mastered for you to be like a good gymnast?
It's hard to say. Well, gymnastics is awesome in the sense that like doing gymnastics is a workout.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sort of, in order to do one skill on the parallel bars, you need to activate, like we're told to squeeze our legs, right? So we have to keep our legs together. So keeping your legs together and keeping them straight, you're activating your adductors, your quads, you're squeezing your butt, your glutes, your calves because you want to point your toes, plus you're supporting all your body weight in your arms, so you're using your shoulders. You're keeping your core activated. If you're in a handstand, you've got your traps, you've got your neck, everything. So like gymnastics is this awesome sport where just doing the sport and having fun, it is activating pretty much every single muscle you can think about. Half the time I'm clenching my jaw as well. My jaw muscles are getting sore. So it's sort of pretty hard to avoid working every single body part. I think for gymnasts specifically, we get, the muscles around your joints and making sure your joints are really stable. Like you need to be flexible to be a gymnast, but flexibility alone is not enough. You need strength to be able to support the joint. So shoulder, elbow, wrists, knees. So again, it's all the major muscle groups. If I talk about the muscle groups that my strength program targeted when I was growing up, you're talking rope climbs, which is a lot of like pulling exercises, which is, whether you're going up or down, it's obviously targeting a lot of forearm strength, which is important. Biceps, triceps, front delt, rear delt, pecs are super important. Honestly, it's really hard to narrow it down. And even with chin-ups, you do the same thing. Wide chin-ups, you're incorporating your lats, and then you've got dips, which is obviously shoulder. Core strength is really, really important no matter what you're doing. I would say core strength is one of the most important things you can do, because in order to lift weights safely, a lot of the time you need to be engaging your core. If you don't have a strong core, you risk having bad back problems and things like that. So
do you do much cardio? Like, is it a thing of like obviously you work 35 hours a week? Mm-hmm. Is that your cardio, or do you like cardio specific workouts? Yeah, well, that is part of our cardio. It's like not aerobically we're not very fit. Like you asked me I've been on 3 runs my whole life. Like, So you hikes a lot.
Yeah, I do hike a lot. I love walking, but I do a bit of cardio work. It's specific. It's specific cardio work for me. Again, I'm at the sort of the pinnacle of the sport, which means that everything I do has to be done for a reason. If I started just doing cardio work that was specified for 20 minutes of cardio, it would have to be for a reason, and it might be out of season. I would do that to maybe cut a bit of weight or just to get a little bit of fitness back after a break. But right now I'm leaning into a competition, so the cardio work that I'm doing is maxed out at 3 minutes, because my longest routine is floor, which is 75 seconds. So if I push the boundaries a little bit more, you still build that foundation, that cardio base, but most of the things that I'm doing is very much specifically targeted towards, all right, how do we fatigue you for 75 seconds and increase your threshold? So
what is the max amount of time you'd be doing?
Probably 75 seconds.
75 seconds.
Yeah. It's an interesting sport because, again, we have to do I have to do 6 routines, but each of them only lasts a small amount of time. But then you've got to warm up for those as well. So it's this weird thing where start to finish a competition can be 3 hours long, but each individual turn can go anywhere from 5 seconds to 70 seconds. So it's very start, stop. So I think that's part of the reason. Gymnasts have pretty good physiques, and I think that's part of the reason is like the amount of contact hours. But you're resting in between turns, but you're never resting to full resting heart rate. Your heart rate is slightly raised for the whole 3 hour session. It's slightly up, and then an individual sort of turns that you're taking, it's like going up. Well, nerves as well as just breathing out your ass because you're working hard. But
interesting. And so is it a general comp just over one day, or is it over a few days?
It depends. One competition is 1 day, but you can have qualifications and then finals, so that would be 2 days, which is typically how it goes. So the World Cups I'm going to, I'll compete on a Thursday, and then if I make the final will be on a Saturday.
Yeah, okay. And kind of on that, do you have any pre-comp rituals or routines that you do, or anything that gets you in zone? Or
usually if you have an afternoon competition, I'll train in the morning, stretch out. Part of that is to get the body moving and get it loose. The other part is you're a bit nervous sitting in the hotel twiddling your thumbs for 6 hours before a competition, so just getting the mind moving. But specific pre-comp rituals, not really. I have a very strict warm-up that I'll do for floor specifically. Like I know exactly what I'll do in my warm-up every time before I do a floor routine. So repetition of the warm-up is just as important as repetition of the routine. But other than that, I try not to have too many rituals, because the more you rely on rituals, the more things can go wrong.
If you don't do the ritual properly, then you're and then on more of the nutrition side, so I'm assuming your normal diet, just like eating clean.
Yep.
Except with Maccas.
Love Maccas.
How can you do
post-comp Maccas? No, that's not good for recovery either. But I don't have a specific diet. Like I've tried, or like I've sort of got a nutrition plan, but I've tried different things before. And it's something that I've talked to my nutritionist, mainly about just mindful eating and just watching what you eat and just noticing what you eat. I don't count calories. I don't, count macros or anything like that. I just know the timing of proteins and carbohydrates can be really important. Obviously, sort of making sure that I'm sort of carved up, so to speak, before a training session, especially if I need to focus. Carbohydrates are really important for focus, and for a sport like gymnastics, one small mishap can be very, very dangerous and deadly. So making sure you've got the energy for both the physical as well as the mental, like the brain function and the focus. Post workout, within about 30 minutes, it's really important to get about 20 grams of protein in. A lot of the times we'll be backing our sessions up, so we'll have 2 sessions a day. So for us, when you're training a lot, something as simple as a chocolate milk actually can be pretty useful, because it hasn't got heaps of protein in it, but it's got a bit of protein, a bit of carbohydrate, so you're refueling the carb stores as well as getting the recovery from the protein. Again, pushing as high up to that sort of 20 grams of protein post workout is good. I think there's something like you can only digest 20 grams of protein at once.
I think that's kind of BS. I know that so many protein things have like 30 grams per
Yeah, but I think you piss half of it out.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, I don't know, and that sort of speaks, I guess, that speaks to the level of specifics that I take it with nutrition. I think some people would take it much more specifically, but I find that like focusing on that too much can just increase stress around the sport, and as long as you're eating healthy and you're eating enough. But for me, very specifically, I put on muscle very easily, and with gymnastics we need to be light as we can. So, and I found that the amount of muscle that I was putting on, the weight that it was putting on versus its functionality wasn't matching up. So I was getting heavier without actually matching the strength. So it was making me heavier in the gym, and I wasn't strong enough to hold the weight. So working with the nutritionist, again, this is very specific to me. She didn't want me to eat any less, but she wanted me to reduce a little bit of the amount of protein that I was having and increase the carbs, because we train so much. Eating more carbs for us isn't an issue. So she said, listen, still have the same amount on your plate, but just make it a bit more rice or pasta or whatever it is, and a bit less of the meat.
So you said that you don't really count calories or anything, but you work with a nutritionist. And then here, obviously, Australian Institute of Sport, do you have like, is it like a buffet? Are you like serving yourself stuff, or do you have like a meal that comes to you every day, which the dietitian's written? Or
there's a buffet, like place you can get for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I usually just eat at home.
So you they give you like a food allowance or something, obviously, to like buy your own food, or?
No, I pay for all of that myself. So it just comes out of what we're paid. So, but it's just I know what foods are protein, right, and I know what foods are carbohydrates, and over the years of working with nutritionists and dietitians, I'm pretty clued on with what's what.
To really dig into it, if you were to pick like your from your brekkie, like your meal one all the way to your last meal, what would it kind of be like your normal meals that you'd have throughout the day?
Yeah, so I like breakfast food, so like every morning I'll make either one piece of toast with avocado, and then either scrambled eggs or a boiled egg or fried egg. Recently I bought some English muffins, so I've been smashing like egg and bacon sandwich with like a muffin, with some avocado in there. So yeah, if I'm doing scrambled eggs, I'll do a couple eggs. If I'm doing just a fried egg or something, I'll just do one with the piece of bacon. It's a hard balance. I want carbohydrates, I want food to fuel me, but I can't eat too close to training because again, we're flipping around, so it sort of sits in the stomach. So that'll be breakfast. Lunch for me, I probably don't eat enough for lunch. Like it's something that I'm working on at the moment and trying to find a good balance, because second session again you want to be light, but you need to recover from the last one and fuel for the next. So probably ideally at the moment when I do well, I'll be doing like a berry smoothie with, it'll just be milk, yogurt and berries, and then I'll have a muesli bar or something as well. And then after the last session I'll have a chocolate milk or 2, 3 sometimes if I'm feeling thirsty and hungry. Sometimes overindulge, but that's all right. And for dinner it can be steak, veggies and rice, or it can be, I've been loving ramen at the moment, so I've been making like, like some pork belly ramen, or I've got like dumplings that are in the freezer, so pork dumplings that I'll have, and I'll boil an egg and put an egg in there as well, so that sort of is a bit more protein as well, and I'll chuck a bunch of veggies in there, and so I love that as well. I love Japanese food. I made some tandoori chicken marinated, which was beautiful. I like cooking, man. So again, I try not to take eating so seriously because I love eating. I love food, and I think the more stress you put on it, the more you might be checking yourself on the scales, the more you start counting calories and stuff like that. It's just mindful eating. Be mindful of what you're eating. If you have a bad meal, that's okay. Just don't do it again every single day. It's like, you're okay to treat yourself to a Macca's meal every now and then, but just don't have it every day.
And are you into your supplements at all?
Just recently I got some supplements actually, but that's because my tendons I've been having some issues with my bicep tendons and my Achilles tendons, so we're sort of experimenting a little bit with just having some omega-3 supplement and a collagen supplement, so just to help with inflammation and I guess elasticity sort of things. When it comes to protein supplements and stuff, I don't have any of that. I know some guys will be have been dabbling with creatine stuff, which I think I might try. I've heard some good things about just able to it's like recovery, backing up sessions day after day with strength work, so I think that's something I'll be interested in. But it does increase your weight, so therefore for us it increases our chance of injury, because we have to be pretty conscious of how heavy and how much force we're putting through our joints, but that'll be something I might try.
If you're starting all this stuff, like big comps, like would that be something you can try after all these?
I won't go near anything super close. Something like omega-3s and collagen, I'm going to start. Just started recently. There's no risk with it really. I talked a lot with the doctor and the nutritionist as well. We started afterwards, and they were pretty happy with my specific situation. Just saying, we're happy to start that now. Something like creatine makes a pretty big difference to your weight and that sort of stuff, so I wouldn't touch that anywhere near at the beginning of a competition. I would have to do it big block of time that I was okay with just experimenting.
And is caffeine a thing in gymnastics? Do you guys take that before you do comp? Buzzed, or
I was talking about this recently. Is one of the things I want to experiment with a little bit more. Like I had drink coffee. I initially didn't like coffee. I drank it for its performance effects. So massive performance booster for me. I love coffee, and I won't do a big session without having a coffee or 2. I want to start measuring time before and like milligrams. So I'm thinking about, again, post this competition, doing a little bit of experimentation of timing of when I have it, and I'll probably measure it specifically. I might start taking some caffeine pills just so I can specifically measure exactly how many milligrams. So so just working out exactly what's going on, so I can have a bit of a recipe for exactly what I want. Because you go to a competition and sometimes they might not have coffee, or it's instant coffee versus other ones, and it's sort of like, right, well, if you just take your own caffeine pills, it's a little bit of it's less of a variable to deal with when you're trying to perform well. So, but absolutely, caffeine's a massive one.
Is gymnastics a big doping sport? I'm assuming you can't.
I mean, there's been doping cases for sure. It's not like EPO or anything like that. That wouldn't help us because we're basically just using our anaerobic system. So, like steroids and things like that. There've been people caught with that before.
Right, I think so now, and finally, I guess, what about your recovery? Like, you've already had massage today, and you're going to do the stuff tomorrow, but in the week, do you try to do like a couple of pull sessions or like roll out? Like, are you obviously stretching every day? Like,
we warm up and warm down at every session. Sometimes warming down I'm a little bit less diligent with, because most of the time we're backing up to another session, or we're coming to the hydro, the pools to do a recovery session. So I'll do hot, cold, pools, walking in the water 3 times a week probably. I'll do it more if I have the time. I like getting in the water. For me, I do it at the end of all of my sessions for the day. So it's as much of a physical recovery process, it's a nice mental one for me to remind my body, all right, physical gymnastics day is done. So it's a nice little closing of the door for the day. I've also found a lot of like nice mindfulness benefits to cold water immersion. So I shower cold. I'll do cold shower every day as well. Every shower that I have, if it's not just a full cold shower, I'll do the last minute will be full cold, which I find really useful, and especially before a big session. Again, I don't want to immerse myself in freezing water and get all my muscles tight and shortened, but I will go in cold water. It gets my adrenaline pumping, it gets me a little bit more alert and ready to go. So I really like that as an addition to caffeine.
And then just at comps, how do you? Cause like whenever I watch Olympic gymnasts, gymnasts at the Olympics, it just seems like, how do they nail that movement when there's like so much pressure? How do you do you have any like kind of mental tips on how you deal and cope with pressure in like the big moments that matter?
There's lots of different techniques. One of them is visualization. So I work on visualizations a lot. I'll visualize myself. So there's 2 different visualization techniques that I use. One of them is I'll imagine myself doing the routine. So in my body, going through my routine, I'll do the routine in my head, down to all the specifics, like every single movement. I'll try to feel exactly how it usually is. And then the other technique that I use, and I use both of them, is I'll watch myself from a third person do a routine. So as if I'm sitting on the sidelines watching myself. So a combination of both of those are really important. Because again, you're getting the mental reps in as well as the physical reps, because our bodies break down pretty easily with the amount of force we're doing. There's only so many reps you can do. So doing the mental reps are really important. If I'm competing at a venue that I've competed at before, I'll visualize myself as much as I can in the venue, which is good. And visualization is so powerful. I can get, before a competition, I get to the point where I'll visualize in the shower, and I'll get to the point where I can visualize so specifically, and I can put myself so much in the moment that I can feel my heart rate rising, and then I can feel myself controlling my heart rate, which is just such a good thing to be able to practice. Because in the moment when you've got 10,000 people sitting around clapping, and you've got to perform a skill to perfection, really, and you've got to be able to control your nerves and your breathing and all that sort of stuff. So breathing is another one that's really important, but just getting the reps in, and really trusting yourself and trusting the process that you've gone through, trusting the amount of routines you've done, and that's a really important part.
Have you ever, out of the injuries that you've had, you said one in America, right? Have you ever been thrown off by something which has kind of impacted your performance in a comp, which then has led to an injury? For those times.
Like a distraction, or?
Has there been a moment before that where you weren't, because you weren't mentally there or something, is why you were injured, or that hasn't really happened?
Not really. In a way, my last ACL was on a rings dismount. My shoulder was really sore, and it was at a World Cup. Rings isn't my strongest apparatus. We're just doing it in preparation for another event, and
so you felt a bit off before?
Yeah, well, I said to my coach, shoulder's killing me, the day before, and he's like, well, we'll warm up. If it's not good, we won't do it. I was like, okay. So I warmed up. My shoulder was feeling a bit better, but the indecision of whether I should or shouldn't do it. Like you could maybe put it down to that. I think there's so many variables at play, but that's maybe something that played into it, was just the fact that I wasn't absolutely set. I'm definitely going to do this, and I think that with elite sport and specifically with dangerous sports like gymnastics, like you have to be ready to go. Like you can't 90% committed, 99% committed. It's not enough. You have to be 100% in, focused and ready to go.